Good morning, and it's Wednesday. Had to think there, forced myself to say what day it is. So good morning and welcome from Lanark Loch, and thank you to everyone who has been following these vlogs that I originally set up as a challenge to myself to have some structure and commit to doing something at the same time every day. So thank you. So we've been talking about fear of change, and we're looking at how to break the patterns of our programming. So I had a number of emails around about from yesterday and even the day before. So rather than answering them individually, I'll put them all together. And so a model of the mind, an old model of the mind that some may be familiar with, others may not, but I'll say it. So we have got predominantly an unconscious mind, a subconscious mind, and a conscious mind. Our conscious mind, the way that I think about it, which I find is helpful, is if you imagine an iceberg sticking out the water and you're going past it in a boat. The iceberg is what you see at the top, that's your conscious mind. But the rest of the iceberg goes all the way down to the seabed, which is fathoms deep. Good morning, Marion. Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning, Peter. And okay, so you've got your conscious mind. That's what you see at the top. Then you've got your subconscious mind and your unconscious mind. Now, from conception, most probably, when you're in utero, so what happens is we are all very different in many ways. We have unique fingerprints, and indeed dentistry records are all completely unique to us, but we all share exactly the same story. We're all identical in the fact that we were both a sperm from our father and an egg from our mother, and then the fertilisation process begins and we become a blastocyst and a zygote, etc., and then the formation of the neural plates starts to occur. And each stage of that gestation is vitally important, as that neural tube starts to form. If that doesn't form correctly, that's where we see things like spasticity and Down syndrome, etc. And anyway, we go through 9 months of being in the womb. Now, then we're born. Now, up until very recently, we believed that a child was born a blank canvas. Well, a child's not born a blank canvas. A child is born pre-programmed for a world of which its mother was experiencing electrochemically. So if the mother, for an example, in the 9 months had a fright or a scare or was robbed or saw an accident, the mother undoubtedly would have a fear response. So then that fear response is then picked up by and part of the programming of the unborn child. Good morning. Of the unborn child. Okay, so is that unconscious? Well, it's pretty deep down. It's pretty deep down in the mind. Is it non-conscious? It's certainly what we know is pre-verbal. It's pre-cognitive. So then the child's born pre-programmed for a world of which its mother was experiencing electrochemical. So if the mother has come or been scared about the pregnancy, or indeed worrying about the child that she had lost beforehand, or the mother and father had split up, or she didn't know who the father was, and there was all these money worries, and the mother's having all these thoughts, the child that's not even born is being incubated in those thoughts and feelings that the mother is experiencing. So then the child's born into this world, pre-programmed for a world of which its mother was experiencing, and so the replication of this holodeck begins. The hard drive and the programming starts to occur, okay? So we've got a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and an unconscious mind. Now that conscious capacity of the child that's just been born isn't online yet. And the child that's born is what's called a hypnagogic trance. It's basically in a state of hypnosis, and it is absorbing information at light speed. Now, my definition of why the conscious mind is not came online yet is because when the conscious mind is like a gearbox, okay, in a vehicle, I'm quite mechanical in my thinking, so I'll give you an example. Your unconscious mind is sucking information from its environment super fast at this point, okay? You learn more between the age of 0 and 7 than you do from any other time in your development. But that doesn't mean to say that it has to stop. But anyway, the speed of which we are sucking in information. Good morning, Harvey, Paul, Francis Devine. So the speed of which we're absorbing information at this time in our development is astronomical. It's like a Ferrari Enzo engine, and it's revving at full pelt, okay? But the conscious mind, in comparison to the unconscious mind and its storage capacity, is like a gearbox from a little 4-speed 1 litre Ford Fiesta, right? So if you were to marry that up, if you were to marry the conscious mind of the 1 litre gearbox from a Ford Fiesta, then a clutch, and then the engine of a Ferrari Enzo, and the Ferrari Enzo engine's revving at full speed, what's going to happen to the clutch? It's going to blow the clutch, okay? So between the age of 0 and 7, we're on a development track. The engine's revving, it's sucking up all these things from its environment. And what do? Do we learn that? We learn from what we see. Okay, so when we're little and we're in the back seat of the car, we're watching how mummy's driving. We're watching how daddy's driving. We're watching what they do. And most of us learn monkey see, monkey do, okay? So that's us starting to install all these unconscious programs. So if we've got a program for lack, or scarcity, or violence, or trauma, or pain, or we were victimised, or we were treated badly, or we were full of shame and guilt, and even guilty for being alive, guilty for being too rich, guilty for being too poor, want to be taller, want to be smaller, want to be fatter, want to be thinner. And we start to create all those patterns of behaviour, okay? So then we come to fully fledged adults, and we're sitting here and we want to start to make some changes. Now, are we a program of our past? Are we a program of our present? Are we a map to our future? Okay? Now, what a lot of us have not been taught, and what we don't realise, is that we are creators of our own reality. Now, if I went to the Bible and I said that the Bible said that God made man in his image after his likeness, and metaphorically, whatever God's supposed to be, he was supposed to be a creator. He created everything. Now, everything that I can see, as far as my eye can go right now, man has created. Man has created this. This is a bin. So somebody thought, okay, now that we've started to implement materialistic things, and people throw those materialistic things on the ground, we're going to need to have a bin to put them in, okay? And then let's put some water here, okay, as a public park, and then people in the public park might fall in. So if somebody falls in, what would be a good way for them to be rescued? Okay, what we've got to do is we've now got to create a life belt, okay? So everything architecturally, all the buildings that I can see over there, they all came out of the mind of man. So we can create whatever it is that we want to create, depending that we are not predicted by our past or being controlled by our past. If we're being controlled by our past, we could be a victim to it. Okay, now as I've said, and people are finding, because this is the bit that people are struggling with, I don't take drugs and alcohol, how can you possibly say I'm an addict? Okay, well, by the mere merit that you're thinking and feeling, we've become addicted to those feelings. So we don't need an event, okay, to create a response. That frog's not got very far from a few days ago. It's still here. Hello, little guy. The reptilian brain. Huh. The lizard mind. Okay, so if, for an example, what do you mean by that? Okay, so as a male, If a male started to have a fantasy about a woman and he found that woman attractive, or if you were homosexual of another man and you found that man attractive in some kind of way, and that your experience, your internal experience of that would release a load of emotions, chemicals, drugs, and that would create a biochemical response in your body. And you would start to feel that. So as I've said, if you're thinking about something that you like, it gives you a certain feeling. If you think about something that you don't like, it gives you another feeling, okay? However, a lot of these negative feelings that we bury, because if we were, to fight the depression or get beyond the programs of the hurt and the trauma that we've experienced in our earliest of development, we push that into the unconscious mind, and then that becomes scripts and schemas and a narrative that starts playing out from an unconscious mind, and those become habits, and we just start to follow the same habit over and over and over again. So what is an addiction? An addiction's a habit. So it became habitualised in how we approach our environment. We get out of bed the same way, we go to the same restaurants, we run around with the same people, we do the same thing. And when we do the opposite of that, it feels very unusual. So we've become addicted to doing things a certain way. Now, if your intention unconsciously is looking towards fear, then that's going to be keeping you stuck, because fear's a very constrictive feeling. Now, if we start to feel gratitude and we start to feel happy and we start to feel love, it feels very unfamiliar at first. But what we've got to do is we've got to learn how to hardwire that new program into our brain, because we're so used to the negative, the pain, the suffering of humanity. But in actual fact, there is another way. Now, something just popped up into my head there. I don't know if that's... When you're running from your old scripts and schemas and your old unconscious behaviours, you're not thinking. You're in your reptilian brain, okay? You're in your cerebellum. You're in a fear response. You're in a stress response. Most of us are walking about stressed out our mind. The biggest cause of disease is stress. We're living in a stressed out culture. Now, there's no need for that, and certainly when you're stressed, there's very little space for creativity. Maybe the stress or the eustress that you experience can promote you to moving forward, but then we've got to learn how to let that go so that we can get into flow. Now, if you're running around from your old scripts and schemas, okay, hurting one another, being greedy, being judgmental, projecting, we're not taking accountability. Every time you point a finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you. Oh, the world done it. It's their fault. It's the government's fault. They've created this. They've caused that. And we become a slave and we become a trapped to, or they owe us that, or we need that. And that's a kind of mindset that keeps us stuck. We deserve that. We've worked for that. Now, it came to my head there that when Jesus, and we're heading towards this day and Friday, but Jesus, when he was hanging on the cross, right, we were told in this book of fiction, book of fact, that I don't know, we were told that Jesus was crucified and he looked up and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, if the people that thought it was acceptable to put nails through another human being's hands and feet and crucify them to a cross thinks that that's cool, are they actually thinking what they're doing? Are they in their hearts? But we're doing that every day. We're crucifying people we know nothing about. We're judging them. Look at their clothes, look at their hair. Who do they think they are? Who does he think he is doing their Facebook Live videos? Right? Oh, he used to be that. He was into that. He was involved in that. Yeah, and I stand here accountable. I am and was and will be. However, as long as you're projecting onto other people. Now it also says biblically, good morning sir, how are you? I'm really well, thank you, and yourself? Are you managing all right? Cool, you got everything you need? Yeah, aye. Brilliant. Now, projection, transference, counter-transference. What does all that stuff mean? All these new age, new words, these psychological terms. Again, biblically, he who has no sin cast the first stone. And how can I take the speck of dust from my brother's eye when I am unprepared to take the plank of wood from my own? So we're living in an unconscious program about all the things about ourselves that we never liked. We repressed them and then we started projecting them. Now we know that mirror signal manoeuvre, anytime there's judgment, there's attack. And anytime there's attack, unless you're a psychopath, there's guilt. And that guilt, which we've been feeling or been programmed with, is what's keeping us stuck. And we're all addicted to feeling guilt and shame at some level. Some people have texted me and said, well, I don't feel guilt or shame. I said, so why are you drinking half a bottle of wine every night and a bottle of wine every night? How do you feel about doing that? I don't feel great about it. So is that guilt or is that shame? Right, so what I'm suggesting is, how do we break free of this? Now, I think our world has been functioning from an unconscious perspective. It's been functioning from being within the shadows and the darkness. And what is our way through that? What is our way through that to the light? Well, to realise that we're not a victim. It never happened to us. In 1993, I remember my therapist saying to me, I said, my dad makes me feel terrible. And my therapist looked at me and went, how about reframing that and saying, you allow your dad to make you feel terrible? And I went, well, she said, how does that feel? I says, one makes me feel like a servant and one makes me feel like a master. She says, what one do you prefer? I says, feeling like a master, but I'm not used to it, it's new. She went, no, it won't be if you've been a servant for all your life. 1993, still predominant, still effective today to think like that. Now, we've become so habitualised in our addiction to our thinking that we don't rightly know how we feel. Hi Gail Garfield. It's 2:15 a.m. in New York City. Well, hello New York City. Here we are. It's 7:30 a.m. in the morning here in Central Belt, Scotland, somewhere between Glasgow and Edinburgh. Little town called Lanark. So it's nice that you're watching from New York City. So we became addicted and habitualised to our thinking. And that programming has become our normal. So we don't even know we're doing it. So what I'm suggesting is stop becoming a victim. Now when you look up what's the opposite of victim in the dictionary, I immediately thought victimiser, but if you're a victim, you're actually victimising yourself. So the opposite of being a victim is creativity. Being creative, learning to be creative. Now, how does that fit with the current pandemic that's going on in our world? Well, we've got a choice. We either buy into the fear and the constrictive thinking, which is going to make us smaller, or we start to get creative. We start to do the work. We start to live from our heart. We start to program our mind more efficiently and effectively. So what does that look like? Okay, when you see a picture of a puppy, if you like dogs, how does that make you feel inside? Feel that feeling. How do you feel when you see a crocodile with a child's torso hanging out its mouth? Feel that feeling. Notice which one you like better and start to turn the volume up on that. Start to fill your system with that. Start to take it all the way from the top of your head to the tips of your toes and just feel it and embrace it. And then close your eyes and switch off from the outside world. Disengage from all your triggers because you are being triggered by everything. It's like a light bulb show. Okay? And go inside and start to meditate and start to slow down your electrical activity in your brain and start to smooth it all out. And when you can start to smooth it all out, that's when the doors between your subconscious and your unconscious mind all start to open up, and that's when the work begins. And then start to program yourself at looking at a different arena, looking at a different... If you're on a stage, your world's a stage, and there's 100 seats in a circular dome around you in the theatre, rather than looking over at the past and looking over at all the triggers that make you small and constrictive, change your view. Look over somewhere, turn the light on, shine the light into positive things. Gratitude. Gratitude completely rewires your brain. Start to feel grateful. For me, it's very simple. when I find money, when I see money, a little 1 penny piece, 20-cent piece, you know, whatever, small 50-pence piece, a pound coin. Wow, I feel like I've won the lottery if I find a pound coin. And just be grateful. Just be grateful that you found it. And experience that gratitude. And start to feel that gratitude in your heart. And open your heart up to new possibilities and new experiences. So I hope that's answered the questions that I was asked in private messages. I really hope that that's been helpful. This is a blessing being able to do this. And I wish you all a very successful and expansive Wednesday. Have a great day.